This is the Jocko Underground podcast, number 32. Sitting here with Echo Charles.
Yes.
Echo Charles, we got a topic for today to kick things off a little bit. Maybe a universal topic. True or false? And we might go deeper than just true or false, because I think this is true and false and false and true. Everyone should know what it feels like to be in a physical altercation and have their ass kicked. True or false? Where you at?
I think I'm with you. It depends, and it depends on what you mean by ass kicked. It depends, and at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of benefit to having that happen, and a lot of benefit to not having that happen.
So, I am gonna lean towards the benefits of having it happen. I think one of the reasons that I'm there is, as you've heard me say many times, the most important quality for a leader or a person. Because I got to add that. This isn't just about leadership. Yeah. This is a person. Most important characteristic or quality for a leader or a person to have is humility. And let's face it, getting your ass kicked is a very humbling thing in most cases. I suppose in some cases where let's say you're way smaller, way weaker, or in a really disadvantageous position and you get your ass kicked, that's sort of like doesn't really count as humbling in a way. In many cases, it doesn't count as humbling because you just didn't stand a chance, and that's the way it is. As a matter of fact, if you're small and you get your ass kicked by some big person, they can look like it can be worse for them in many cases. That's what's nice about Jeff Glover going in tournaments. And he would be all skinny and small and going against just monster dudes and just tapping them out. Yeah. Jeff Glovey.
Yeah, and you can watch videos of that too, by the way, which is interesting.
Yeah. I was never the best person to introduce people to jiu-jitsu because I'm too big. Yeah. And they go, you're just big. Right. I remember, actually, I was rolling with a friend of mine named TJ. This was in 1998. Something like that. So I'm like a blue belt. But he's 145 pounds, right? And I had mats at my house. This is in Virginia Beach. I was like, come over. Yeah. You want to? And I would try and get everyone to train with me. I'd like the mailman would come. I'd be like, you ever done jiu-jitsu before? I was just like that with everybody. And so, I said, hey, you should really do jiu-jitsu. Come on. So we go upstairs. I got the mats upstairs, and we roll. And I said, and I also am a blue belt, so it's not. Like right now, I would be super chill. Right. I'd be like, oh, yeah, see, this is what's going to happen. But then I kind of had a little bit more aggression, you know? So I was just tapping him out. And he immediately, and he's not a wrestler or anything, he immediately started talking about weight classes. Like, obviously with your weight, I was like, what are you talking about, dude? I just got you in a Kimura. By the way, I saw a comment on YouTube about my pronunciation of Kimura. What's the proper?
Kimura.
Okay, so what am I messing up?
The U. You say Kimura.
Oh, Kimura. Yeah. Kimura. Man, don't you like my way a little bit better?
Well, better? No, I like that it's uniquely your way, so I say do what you did.
I must have gotten it from Dean. Or maybe I got it from Fabio.
I will almost guarantee you did not get it from Dean.
What about Fabio? From Fabio?
Negative. No.
So Kimura. That's like harder to say. Kimura.
I don't think so. I think you added another linguistic element when you add the y
Kimura.
Sound. Kimura. So Kimura. Yeah. Only you and Leif Babin say it, and he got it from you.
Oh, he definitely got it from me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm spreading bad word across the country.
Wrong way.
So, humbling. It's very humbling. I'm not the best person to introduce it, but if you watch Jeff Glover, he's tapping out monster guys. That's got to be very humbling. So I think it's a good thing in many cases to get your ass kicked. I say this about kids, little kids a lot. I say jiu-jitsu is really good for little kids, big kids, all kids. But what I say is it is likely to prevent them from becoming bullied, and it's likely to prevent them from being a bully. It stops both. Because when you get your ass kicked, you learn what that feels like. And most people that aren't sociopaths go, hey, I don't want to make someone feel like that.
Yeah.
Right? Because you realize how humiliating it is. Because we've talked about this before too. What's the line between humbling and humiliating?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we talked about that because Dean one day, I mean, many days, Dean's like humiliated me on the mats of justice. Yeah. Beyond humbled. Humble's like, oh man, Echo was all over me today, dude. Yeah, that's man.
Gotta train more.
Gotta train more. Humiliating's like, maybe I don't want to do this sport anymore.
I hope nobody saw that.
I'm going to get a gun. I'm going to shoot Dean Lister in the knee. Yeah. Let's see what you got now, homie. Yep. So, let's say this. If I tried to answer this for real, I would say everyone should train. Everyone should train jiu-jitsu. Everyone should occasionally put on the big gloves and do some kind of MMA type sparring, because otherwise you think your guard is good to go, and then someone starts dropping bombs on you, and that's not cool. Yeah. And you realize, oh, jiu-jitsu's not quite what I thought it was because this guy's punching me in the face.
Yeah. Interestingly, when I first started, that was the whole. When I started, I did it because I wanted to be an MMA fighter. So when we started training all no gi, it was like. MMA training was essentially actual MMA training was like half of the training, and then it wasn't until I found out there was like tournaments, like jiu-jitsu tournaments. Like, oh shoot, we can do just jiu-jitsu, whatever. And then it was, my attention. But it was my point is it was.
Were you thinking that you were going to become an MMA fighter?
Yeah, that's the whole reason I joined. Oh yeah, and I trained for probably 3 years. I was training all jiu-jitsu and MMA. It was like comprehensive.
That's before you met me.
That was before we came here. Yes, before we came to.
We trained at City. We trained at Boxing Club. What? How many times? Like a small amount of times.
I remember training with you at the Boxing Club one time. Okay. My first time.
But very quickly thereafter we moved here to Victory MMA.
Yeah, that was like 2008, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2007 we were training here, but it wasn't open yet. But we had mats up and we were all training.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did. I was training with like Googerty. Remember Tom Watson, Kong? I would like train with him, and I think he fought in the UFC, right? Tom? And then like a lot of guys. Joel Tudor was there. It was it was like there was a lot. Akbar. It was like I trained with him a lot.
Akbar.
Yeah, so he was like
Sockbar.
But the point is, early, like when we started, there was a lot of that went on. Punches, like know how to train with punches. I think Scott Catlin was in there too a lot of time. So we knew. What
was his fighting name?
Who?
Scott Catlin or Caitlin. He had some good. I forget what his fighting name was. He had some nickname.
Oh, I don't know. I forget.
It was one that I said that's pretty good. Remember that fighter whose nickname was? Damn. I can't think of this name. It was really long. It was like 5 different words.
Wait, his nickname was?
Yeah, the nickname was.
The longest nickname I don't know.
Black guy.
He was on art.
No, he was UFC.
Oh,
he was like UFC. He didn't have that many fights either. His nickname didn't really hold up as well as you wanted it to.
Right. Got it. No, I don't remember. But as far as training with punches and knowing, where, hey, your guard is not going to be as effective if you're going a little bit more full speed or more full contact or whatever. That came through early development. So I think it's like more like I take it for granted. I think a lot of times that nowadays where jiu-jitsu is so much more expanded, and so some people can go through jiu-jitsu all the way up to a high level without that training at all. I could see how they might be vulnerable just from a habitual standpoint,
You have the base ingrained
Yeah.
concepts in your brain.
Yeah. So when Greg McIntyre trained with a lot. Greg McIntyre punched me the hardest I've ever been punched in the straight square in the face too. By the way.
What?
What do you mean? For
like what? What's going on? What position?
I was in. He was in my guard.
What made? Okay, go ahead.
And I separated and I went for double. You know, you separate guard and then flip over and go for a double. And right when I flipped over, he was like already based. Good. And I remember he had white gloves on, and bro, his Like he hit me right between, like, right between the eyes, like a cartoon. Like boom.
Was that the end of your MMA career? I was about to ask you what was the end of the MMA career, but then I was like, oh, he's about to tell me what the end of his MMA career is.
No. It just sort of faded out. Like I jump in, like how you're actually training for maybe you'll get a pancration match or something like this, and then you don't, and then you're kind of training just here and there, and then I remember the last MMA thing that I remember was us training with Dean to help him for a fight. That's it. Sure. So it's like it becomes that,
I just remembered that guy's nickname, Shonuff the Master. You remember that? That was the dude's nickname. It was like Fred Shonuff the Master Smith or something. I thought that was a pretty epic nickname.
Well, Shonuff the Master, that's from Bruce Leroy, right? What's that one? Last Dragon?
Yeah. So it's from one of those movies. Yeah, the amount of rounds I have fighting MMA is a lot.
Right, so it's like habitual,
because all the sparring that we used to do back in the day. So back to this question, trying to bring it back. I think everyone should do it. I guess my answer is true. Yeah. Now, does this mean you should go out in the street and pick fights with big people that are going to kill you or beat you, unconscious? No. That's why we love jiu-jitsu. That's why we love MMA. Yeah. Because these things are humbling. You get these things without having to get in a legal situation, without having to get in a medical scenario, right? So instead of this question being, should everyone know what it feels like to be in a physical altercation to have their ass kicked, it just should be, should everyone train jiu-jitsu, MMA? And the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. And I think we can settle it down like that. I think I just kind of solved our problem.
Yeah, in a way. And again, that's why I was like, it depends. And then, so the word should, right? Should. It's like, if you don't, you're kind of like not doing the right thing almost kind of thing. You should do this versus shouldn't do this. Maybe, if you change that more accurately. Put it this way. Is there immense value in getting your ass kicked? The answer is yes. I would say yes. Pretty much across the board, as long as you're not, whatever.
Right. But there's a difference between, I went on the mat with Dean. He tapped. I don't train jiu-jitsu. I show up. This is the reality. I show up to train jiu-jitsu, or Jeff Higgs shows up at my house. I have a little tiny bit of training, and he's been training for the last 3 years hard. He just got his purple belt, and he comes up and kicks my ass with jiu-jitsu. He didn't hurt me. He didn't send me to the hospital, but he kicked my ass for sure.
Yeah.
I guess there's a line, right?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Because kicking someone's ass could be this person's in the hospital, and it could be, I tapped this guy out 9 times, which is what Higgs did to me, or 9 or 17 or something.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu's a little bit different in training, even in a competition jiu-jitsu, because it's like there's rules and there's a clear, like it's 100% up to you when the fight can just stop. You can just tap out and be like, hey, and it's not really a real fight. Like you guys are actually, I want to hurt this guy. I want to try to like beat this guy up, where if you get in a fight somewhere outside of training or whatever with somebody, especially somebody you don't know, or even if you know him, whatever, he's like kind of trying to hurt you, and that's a different experience. It's a whole different thing, really, because jiu-jitsu kind of bleeds more into you just lost in the competition. Even in training, the element of competition that's in training, you just lost that competition, It's I don't think that's what he's talking about at all. I think they're two different things as far as experience goes. Like if you experience getting your ass kicked in jiu-jitsu training and tournaments or whatever, that's not the same. Not the same at all as far as what I think anyway, what I think he said.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten your ass kicked in a street fight?
Yes, sir. Well, here's the thing. Depends on what you mean by ass kicked. Where I lost, I've been in a street fight as a kid, teen. I didn't lose that one, but the one where I lost the fight, like, dang, I got beat up, and I'm the one who kind of I didn't start the fight, but I initiated the physical part of it. Right. I got beat, but I didn't get like hurt or nothing, and I get knocked out.
Well, did that impact your your personality, your mentality a little bit? I got my ass kicked. I think it was in 5th grade, and 5th grade. How old are you in 5th grade?
10.
10-ish. Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Maybe
it was 6th grade. Yeah. Maybe it was 6th grade, but I think it was 5th grade. Anyways, I was talking shit. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I was a shit talker, as you know.
Yes, sir.
Which, as you also know, and I was explaining to you earlier, I can't do that anymore. Like I don't. Right. It's not the right thing to do, right? It's not the right thing to do to ridicule people and make fun of them. In the SEAL teams, it's the only thing to do. That's what it is all day long, every day. But even in the SEAL teams, once I became an officer, once I was when you're a platoon commander, you can't just verbally hammer someone because you have too much power and authority because you're the platoon commander. As a task commander, you can't do that stuff anymore. You can't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I never did, because sometimes I would be out of line.
Sure.
But if you compare to that when I was an E5 Mafia guy in a SEAL platoon, bro, I mean, it's just ruthless savagery all the time, 24/7. And especially because then when you're an E5 in a SEAL platoon, you're the opposite power. It's a power inversion. So all power is kind of gained through that situation. The only power you have is what you can muster up with your mouth, right? Talking shit to people. So I was a little kid and I was talking shit, and that is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to jockounderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms so we are not subject to their control. And we're doing it so we can give you more control, more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's jockounderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@jockounderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.